This house will be perfect for Marcus's new start, my mother announced during Christmas dinner, casually passing the mashed potatoes. Emma, you'll need to move out by next weekend. I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. My name is Emma Sullivan. I'm 32, and my mother just announced she was giving away my house. The house I bought 3 years ago after a decade of saving. Excuse me? I managed to keep my voice steady, though my hands were shaking. Now don't be difficult, my father chimed in, not even looking up from his plate. Your brother needs this more than you do. After his divorce, he needs a fresh start. Marcus, my 35-year-old brother, sat across from me smirking. He'd always been my parents' golden child, even after dropping out of college, burning through 3 failed businesses, and recently divorcing his wife after she caught him cheating. This is my house, I said firmly. I bought it. You can't just give it away. My mother's expression hardened. Actually, we can. Your father's name is still on the deed as a cosigner. We've already spoken to a lawyer. That was true. When I bought the house, my father had co-signed because the bank wanted additional security. I'd been meaning to refinance and remove him, but work had been hectic, and I trusted my family. Clearly, that had been a mistake. You're being selfish, Marcus added, helping himself to more turkey. I have nowhere else to go, and you can easily rent an apartment. It's not like you have a family to worry about. The casual cruelty of his words stung. I focused on my career as an environmental scientist, and apparently, that made my need for a home less valid than my brother's. I'm not moving, I stated, pushing back from the table. This is my house. I pay the mortgage. I've done all the renovations. You can't just. We can and we will, my father interrupted. Sometimes family has to make sacrifices. Marcus needs this opportunity. I looked around the table at my family, my mother's self-righteous expression, my father's dismissive gesture, Marcus's smug smile. They'd probably planned this for weeks, waiting until Christmas dinner to announce it, thinking the holiday spirit would make me more compliant. I have work to do, I said, standing up. We can discuss this later. I walked to my home office, the one room in the house that was completely mine. The walls were lined with my research papers, environmental impact studies, and the awards I'd earned over the years. My family had never shown much interest in my work, but these achievements meant everything to me. I heard footsteps behind me and turned to find my mother in the doorway, her face flushed with anger. You're being ridiculous, she snapped. Your brother needs a fresh start, and you're acting like a spoiled child. I'm acting like a homeowner, I corrected her. This is my house, Mom. I worked for this. Work? She laughed bitterly, playing with dirt samples and writing reports about trees. Marcus has real problems, real needs. Before I could respond, she moved to my desk and swept her arm across it, sending my papers flying. If you won't be reasonable, she continued pulling books from the shelves, then maybe you need some motivation. I watched in horror as she systematically destroyed my office, throwing files to the floor, knocking over my awards, tearing research papers. I didn't try to stop her. Something inside me had gone very cold and very calm. There, she said finally, standing amid the chaos she created. Now you can see how serious we are. Start packing, Emma. Marcus moves in next weekend. She stormed out, leaving me alone in the wreckage of my office. I heard Marcus laugh from the dining room, heard my father telling him they'd help him move his things in soon. I pulled out my phone and made 2 calls. The first was to my lawyer, Diana Martinez, who'd helped me with environmental contracts in the past. The second was to someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years, my grandfather's old friend, Mr. Sullivan, who happened to be the county records keeper. Emma, Diana's voice was warm but concerned. It's Christmas. What's wrong? I need you to check something for me, I said, my voice steady. Remember those property documents we filed last summer? The ones my family doesn't know about. Of course, she replied. Would this have anything to do with the private recording we submitted? It might, I said, a small smile forming. How quickly can you get me copies? My family had always underestimated me, assumed I was naive, too focused on my work to understand the real world. They didn't know that I'd seen this coming months ago, when Marcus's divorce was finalized and he started making comments about my big empty house. They had no idea what I'd done to protect myself, and their shock would be exactly what they deserved. The week following Christmas dinner was tense. My parents and Marcus showed up daily, ring boxes and measuring furniture, acting as if my refusal to leave was just a minor inconvenience they could ignore. Each day, they became more aggressive in their attempts to push me out. "We've already enrolled Marcus's kids in the local school," my mother announced, barging in uninvited on Tuesday morning. "They're excited about their new rooms." I didn't respond, just continued sorting through the mess she'd made of my office. I carefully documented everything she destroyed, photographing each torn paper, each broken award. Diana had been very interested in those photos. On Wednesday, Marcus brought a moving truck. "Just thought I'd get a head start," he smirked, trying to unlock my front door with a key my parents must have given him. It didn't work. I changed the locks the day after Christmas. "Trespassing now?" I asked calmly, watching him from my porch swing. That should be interesting to explain. He flushed red but tried to maintain his confidence. "Mom and Dad said." "Mom and Dad don't own this house." I cut him off. "You might want to wait before spending money on moving trucks." Thursday brought my father, wielding guilt like a weapon. "Your brother's children need stability," he insisted. "After the divorce, they need a proper home. You deny your own niece and nephew." Marcus should have thought about stability before cheating on Sarah, I replied, not looking up from my laptop where I was finishing an environmental impact report. "His poor choices aren't my responsibility." My father slammed his hand on my desk. "This isn't a request, Emma. We've given you plenty of time to be reasonable. Either start packing, or we'll pack for you." I finally looked up at him. "Is that a threat, Dad?" "It's a promise," he growled. "This house is partly mine, and I'm giving it to your brother." End of discussion. I returned to my work, ignoring his continued threats. Diana had assured me everything was in place. We just needed them to make one more mistake. We didn't have to wait long. On Friday morning, I returned from a meeting to find my mother and Marcus in my house, boxes scattered everywhere. They were packing up my belongings, tossing my books and research materials carelessly into boxes. "What are you doing?" I asked, though I already knew. I discreetly pressed record on my phone, slipping it into my pocket. "Since you won't be reasonable," my mother huffed, dropping a stack of my journals into a box. "We're doing this for you. Marcus's furniture arrives tomorrow." "You're breaking and entering," I pointed out. Marcus laughed. "It's not breaking in when we have a key. Dad's name is on the deed, remember? We have every right to be here." I noticed they'd already started moving their boxes in. Marcus's tacky sports memorabilia was propped against my wall. His kids' toys scattered across my floor. "Last chance," I said quietly. "Pack your things and leave." "You don't want to do this." "Or what?" Marcus challenged. "You'll call the police on your own family." Always so dramatic, Em. "This is happening whether you like it or not." I pulled out my phone and made a call, putting it on speaker. "Diana? They're here, breaking in and moving my things out." "Yes, I have it recorded." "Could you proceed with the filing?" My mother stopped packing, her face going pale. "Who's Diana?" "My lawyer," I replied calmly. "She's very interested in the property records Dad claims give him the right to give away my house." "What property records?" Marcus demanded, but I could see uncertainty creeping into his expression. "The ones that show Dad's name was removed from the deed 6 months ago," I said, watching their faces. "The ones that prove this house belongs solely to me. The ones that make what you're doing right now criminal trespassing and attempted theft." "That's impossible," my mother whispered. "Your father never signed anything." "Actually, he did." I smiled. "Remember last summer when he was helping me refinance? Those papers he signed without reading? Turns out they were transfer of ownership documents. I own this house. Completely. Legally. And you're both breaking the law right now." The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus's face had gone from smug to panicked, and my mother's hands were shaking as she set down the box she'd been packing. "You're lying," she finally managed. "You couldn't have." She was cut off by the sound of car doors closing outside. Through my window, I could see Diana getting out of her car, accompanied by 2 police officers. "I'm not lying," I said softly. "And now you get to explain to the police why you're in my house without permission, destroying my property and attempting to force me out. I wonder how that will look on Marcus's custody agreement." Marcus's face went white. He was already on thin ice with the custody judge after his affair. This wouldn't help his case. "Emma, please," my mother started. but I held up my hand. "Get out," I said firmly. "Take your boxes, take your key that you no longer have the right to use, and get out of my house. The police can escort you if necessary." They fled just as Diana rang the doorbell, nearly knocking her over in their haste to escape. But we weren't done yet. Not by a long shot. My family had finally gone too far, and I was done being the quiet, accommodating daughter they could walk all over. They thought they knew me. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The aftermath of that day sent shockwaves through our family. Diana filed restraining orders against my mother and Marcus, using the evidence of destruction from Christmas and their recorded break-in attempt. The police report was damning, especially the photos of my destroyed office and their unauthorized moving activities. My father showed up alone the next day, his face red with anger. "How dare you?" he thundered from my porch, since the restraining order didn't include him. "Calling the police on your own mother? Getting a restraining order against your brother?" I stood in my doorway, arms crossed. How dare I protect my property? How dare I stop them from illegally trying to force me out of my own home? "Is that what you're asking, Dad?" "I signed those papers," he said, his voice dropping dangerously. "I helped you." "No," I corrected him. "You signed without reading, like you always do when it comes to me. You assumed I was just your naive little girl who needed Daddy's help with boring paperwork. That was your mistake." He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he'd been so busy focusing on Marcus that he'd missed who I'd become. "Check the property records," I suggested. "While you're at it, check who owns the mineral rights to that worthless land you sold me last year." His face went pale. Last year, he'd sold me a piece of land he considered useless, thinking he was doing me a favor letting me play scientist with my environmental studies. What he didn't know was that my research had discovered significant rare earth deposits on that property. Deposits that were now legally mine. "You knew," he whispered. "I'm not just playing with dirt samples, Dad," I said, echoing my mother's cruel words. "I'm a respected environmental scientist. Those stupid reports about trees you all mock, they've made me more successful than you know." The truth hit him hard. All these years, they'd dismissed my work, my achievements, my capability. They'd seen me as the reliable daughter they could push around, the one who would sacrifice everything for family. "The restraining orders stay," I continued. "And if any of you try to enter my property again, I'll press charges. Family doesn't steal from family." He left without another word, but I knew this wasn't over. The family group chat exploded with messages from aunts, uncles, and cousins, most taking my parents' side without knowing the full story. "How could you do this to your brother?" my aunt wrote. "His poor children." I posted the security footage of my mother destroying my office, followed by photos of Marcus and her breaking in. The chat went silent. 2 weeks later, I received an unexpected visit from Sarah, Marcus's ex-wife. "I heard what happened," she said, hugging me tightly. "I always knew they favored him, but this is insane." She told me Marcus had lost his weekend custody privileges after the police report came to light. "The judge said breaking and entering showed serious lack of judgment," she explained. "Your parents are furious, blaming you for ruining his chances." "He ruined his own chances," I replied, "just like he ruined his marriage." Sarah stayed for coffee, and for the first time, we really talked. She shared stories of how my parents had enabled Marcus's worst behaviors during their marriage, always making excuses, always bailing him out. "You're the first person to make him face consequences," she said admiringly. A month after the incident, I received a letter from my mother. Inside was a check, attempting to pay for the damage to my office, along with a note that read more like a guilt trip than an apology. "While we disagree with your actions, we're willing to move past this if you'll be reasonable. Marcus still needs help." I returned the check with a simple note. "The damage is already documented with my insurance company. Any further communication should go through Diana." The changes in my life were subtle but significant. I focused on my work, publishing research that earned recognition in my field. The mineral rights from my father's worthless land proved incredibly valuable, leading to a sustainable mining contract that would fund my research for years. My home office was rebuilt, stronger and better. The broken awards were replaced with new ones, my torn research reprinted and properly filed. But I kept one torn paper, framed it actually, a reminder of why boundaries matter. Sarah brought the kids over sometimes, supervised visits where I got to be the aunt I'd always wanted to be, not the one my family tried to force me to be. They loved exploring my research lab, asking questions about rocks and plants that their father had always dismissed as boring. My parents and Marcus eventually moved away, unable to face the community after their actions became known. I heard through family gossip that Marcus was living in my parents' basement, still waiting for his fresh start. As for me, I finally had peace in my own home, on my own terms. Sometimes setting boundaries means being called difficult. Sometimes being called difficult means you're finally doing something right. The house that my family tried to steal became more than just a home. It became a symbol of standing up for myself, of refusing to be manipulated or bullied, even by those who should have supported me most. And those property records, they still hang framed in my office, right next to my latest research award. A daily reminder that sometimes the quiet ones, the ones dismissed and underestimated, turn out to be the strongest of all.